This is the Hopkinton Historical Commission's monthly meeting. We will begin today's session with a public hearing on 4852 Main Street and 6 Cedar Street. As chairman, I had issued a letter that determined that one or more of the properties was historically significant. So the intent today during the public hearing is to listen to the applicant and to listen to any abutters, residents, or others who have any information that's pertinent or relevant to the historic significance of any of the 3 properties. Once we've heard comments and rebuttal, the commission will close the public hearing and we will deliberate on whether any of the properties are confirmed to be historically significant. And if so, then we'll do a second vote to determine if they are preferably preserved. The terminology is consistent with Mass laws. Historically significant means that there is something about the structure or the previous occupants that is consistent with the character, neighborhood, and legacy of Hopkinton. And the second question, once we've determined something is historically significant, is whether or not it's preferably preserved. And what the Historical Commission weighs in on, or weighs, is whether there are alternatives to preservation that are for the betterment of the townspeople. So those will be the discussion points that we will have when the commission closes the public hearing and we vote to determine are any of the 3 properties confirmed to be historically significant? And if so, are they preferably preserved? But until that time, what I'd like to do is open the public hearing and ask the applicant if they have any material or information, oral or written, that they would like to provide as part of the public hearing.
I think that because of the TV, you need to introduce the committee.
Okay. My name is Michael Rowan. I'm chairman of the Historical Commission.
Eric Sonnet, member.
Brian Kalala, secretary of the Historical Commission.
Jason, member.
And Stacy Spies, member.
Thanks for that
Thanks, Eric.
protocol. He's my right hand man. With that,
I'm Neil Bingham. I represent Parsons Commercial Group. Parsons Commercial is under an agreement to purchase each of the properties that you just mentioned. I have materials, both physical and would like to talk a little bit about what's going on there presently and quite frankly, what we have in mind if we get to stage 2 of the discussion that you were speaking of.
We saved 3 chairs for you.
Oh, that's better for my back.
do you have any documentation I could broadcast on the Google Meet?
I tried. However,
That's fine.
I do have one document that we're going to be able to show remotely. In addition to, well, first of all, this is Brendan Giblin and John Parsons. They are members of the ownership group interested in purchasing these properties. In addition, Richard Rankin, as you can see, appears through the Google Meet link. He's going to, at some point, share a document with you. That's going to come later in the presentation, which will show what it is that we have in mind for the property. We have 5, and more than enough. But we can get this to you electronically today. May have been because of the size. Yeah.
Okay.
So the document that I just handed out is really just to sort of give us a roadmap and an idea of what it is that we're dealing with. I have put under Exhibit A some photographs of the drugstore, which is the property address 4852 Main Street. In addition, a couple of external photographs of 6 Cedar Street, which I think is primarily the property that we're here to discuss. And in connection with preparing for today, I have done a little history lesson of my own, coming to understand the history of the town of Hopkinton better than I have, despite the fact that I've been practicing just a few miles away for the last 10 years. And it's been very interesting, but I found something that I think we'll talk about along the way. And the last 2 exhibits are, we're thinking about alternative ideas for the use of 6 Cedar Street and not its presentation, because it would just be a little bit too difficult for us to have a fiscally capable project and not utilize that property for it.
Okay.
So that's the idea that we have in mind. I've attached photos which I think really speak to some important historical issues for the town of Hopkinton. And here's what it is. In fact, I'm going to jump right to it if you don't. If you don't. Number one, we want to deal with whether or not do you want to go in order on the elements here?
No, I think what you're doing is excellent, explaining what you've submitted as a set of documents and your intent. So I think this is very helpful. This last document, what is
So the last document is
Exhibit E?
and that's actually Richard Rankin, who's with us, can probably show everybody that document online.
Okay.
And
You want me to turn over the,
can you
The
let
screen?
me share?
yeah, I can stop sharing. Let's see if I can. Second here. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Richard, are you there?
He's there.
Actually, I am here. You can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, we can
I
hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can attempt to share. Do we want to go right into this image of our concept, our current concept?
If you don't mind, yeah, I think I would like to have a full explanation of the document submitted, and that's one of the exhibits, so please.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
just tried to share it. I'm hoping it's shared. Let me know if that actually works. Let's see. No.
You have to say, okay.
Let's see if,
Is that
okay,
that's good? Not shared yet?
no. You're hitting the shared screen at the bottom, the menu. There's a share screen.
Yeah, I
toggle.
thought so. Let's see.
It says present. Present now at the bottom. Yeah, you're on Google Meet, obviously.
Yep. I'm sorry. Let me just see if I can't figure this
Should
out.
be, if you scroll over, there should be one of the icons that says present now. Right next to the raise hand.
Okay. I apologize. There is a share tab that I was trying to press, but that
All
doesn't
right.
seem to be working.
Well, I can do it. Yep, you've raised a hand. Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Calling him.
Open
that's a
queue. All
start.
right, let's see. Let me, all right.
Any luck with that image? No.
No.
I'll tell you what I can do is do it the old fashioned way here. Let me just,
Richard, what?
since I have, so this is
apologize.
the image that Richard is proposing. If you look in the corner, you should see my
And is that View Cedar right now?
That's Main
That's what
Street.
you-
Main Street, really.
That would be Main Street. And then if you look to the left, which is a little bit out of frame, there you go.
Yeah, got it.
So then,
And that very long, wide boat arch, is that like for parking underground?
yeah,
Okay, all right.
and then there'll be
Life safety fire
parking,
apparatus as well.
other kinds of uses.
Yeah, so for retail and
So would the park
Yeah.
be in the front on Main Street or would it be behind?
it's all underground.
All under?
Underground and behind with a courtyard in the back,
Is there 1 or 2 levels of underground parking?
one.
Well, we're still early, we are still in sort of a engineering design phase, so we have things.
Richard, maybe before you go into some of the design elements, Richard, I'd just like to back up maybe 2 exhibits, just to give a little further explanation.
Sure.
I'm gonna take a picture of that.
The historical narrative, there's much to do about the boot factories that were there previously that were ultimately wiped out in a fire. So what our thought is from a development perspective, the next 2 exhibits are 2 kind of examples, was to kind of grab as many elements as these that we felt would kind of pay tribute to kind of that old history, from that area and from that time period. So what we tasked Richard with doing was not only a layout that we felt like kind of worked for the topography and everything else, but also layer in various elements from kind of yesteryear. Which are the previous exhibits.
Oh, I love your exhibit Ds. Both examples, I think, are representative of Hopkinton at the turn of the last century. And when Hopkinton was thriving as a commercial boot center, and had a really a good scale downtown. And I would love to see it return to that personally. So
That was kind of our, that was kind of our inspiration and what the goal was. So with that in mind, we kind of turned Richard loose and
yeah.
Richard, with that being said, do you want to kind of describe some of the design elements to this rendering, albeit kind of preliminary?
Sure, I would be glad to. So unfortunately, I don't have a pointer that I can point, but you're looking at the same image hopefully that I am. It's kind of an evening shot of the corner of Main Street and Cedar Street.
Sure.
And
Oh, is that mine? Oh,
I'm sorry.
mine's being passed around. Sorry. So this is
Got
your proposed rendering.
Yep, the evening rendering, indeed. So just generally, what we looked at was to try to create a facade on Main Street, which kind of spoke to some of the architecture and the vernacular that's been established over the years on Main Street. Some brick facades, some cornices, some bracketing, arch windows, and so on. And generally on the Cedar Street side, it was more of a residential feel. And you can see that as we kind of step down Cedar Street, down the hill, 3 pediments, which are working with our residential piece. And you can also see down there that there's some underground parking associated with the residential, kind of a podium, if you will, with the residential units over it. These are 4 rent units, at least proposed. And then working back to Main Street on the uphill side towards the common, we do have a public parking underneath that archway, which serves approximately 27 spaces with some accessible spaces and so on, which would feed the retail, which you can see is elevated at some level, where you get in on grade on the right side, and then you're walking on a walkway that serves the storefronts that face Main Street and turn the corner onto Cedar for a portion. And then it has apartments above. So we looked at this and, we've kind of got an urban facade and a more residential facade. And then we have a corner element, which helps us turn the corner and really bring some prominence to that intersection, which is an important intersection in Hopkinton. We've got some street trees, some benches, some landscaping and so on, which, can turn that corner. And again, residential above, some balconies, arch windows. When we looked at, the architecture of the town hall and the boot factory, and just tried to pull some elements in that would, fit, if you will, the Main Street vernacular, and also create a more of a residential feel on the Cedar Street side. So right now we're looking at, units above, retail, parking, and just trying to make it fit as best we can. And again, it's a concept at this point. And we just offer it as our kind of first pass at something that we think makes sense for that corner.
Okay,
And so
pretty clear.
that's great. And so moving backward, we're dealing with two properties, and I do want to thank the commission for joining us for a site visit a couple of weeks ago, so that we could, take a look and see what is going on out there. We picked a very icy day, as I recall, so it was we had to wonder whether we were going to walk back over to the drugstore or not. And everyone present decided that was not necessary. And in my view, the reason that decision was made is because, quite frankly, that building is not a significant structure, and could potentially have been the finding. That finding could have been made, and there may not have been need for a hearing on that. But here we are dealing with whether or not that's preferably preserved. And I don't have much to say about that, other than I'm not aware of any history of that property that would require us to be giving it any particular consideration in these proceedings.
Interesting.
Six Cedar, I understand that's a different story. That's a 19th century structure, and I've heard throughout the town of belief that it is a significant structure. There is now, obviously, because of its age, I've looked to try to understand what else about it might be historical and important to the town of Hopkinton. And really, the only thing that occurs to me is that it was built at an important period of time, and quite frankly, at about the period of time when Hopkinton was coming up as an industrial town. It wouldn't be here but for the boot factories and the other industry that was prevalent here before numerous fires. And that Exhibit D that Brendan was just speaking of, speaks pretty clearly to the lack of any reminders of that industrial age in it. And I'll just read it directly. It's, speaking about the fires, and it says, leaving almost no reminders of the community's industrial past. Well, what we've tried to do, and what Richard explained, is an effort really to pay homage to, a very important moment in time for the town of Hopkinton. And at the end of the day, when this board is looking at other houses and things that were built during that period of time, the question is, why were they even built? And the reason is because people were living there. Those people were working at these particular factories, and that is sort of has disappeared from, at least from what you can see out on Main Street and other places where they were located. So I think that it would be, quite frankly, a better use to have something like what we've contemplated.
Preferable use, is that, would you say? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Preferable to the current use. And I know.
Good nudge.
And the last thing I'll say about the current use is, I know that anyone who's here looking for a demo permit tells you how horrible the structure is.
Yeah, we're in it.
We're
Yeah.
talking, and this one actually is. So it's one of the reasons why we wanted you out there, because I was out there more than once, and not once did I feel particularly safe when I walked inside. And I have a family. I cannot imagine raising my children who are little. They're beyond raising age, but if you know what I mean. I would not want to raise young children there. It's just not built for what we need here in our current century. So I would ask that the commission give serious consideration to making a finding that even 6 Cedar Street not be preferably preserved, but that we be directed to do something along the line of what we have here. Now, we keep in mind that we're hoping to soon be before the planning board for site review. It's our desire to do an as-of-right development here, and we'll see if that's how it works out. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think that what we presented is pretty useful in helping us understand the history of Hopkinton.
The only other to add to that would be kind of the name of the site as well. So we haven't necessarily landed on that, but fully intend to integrate, you know, whether it's bridges or, you know, one of the other factories. You know, would certainly be open to input for that.
Well, I think this is significant documentation. I'll withhold subjective comment right now. I want to hear from any other parties. If they have any comment, any one of a neighbor, public, do you have any comment, anything in the public hearing, questions to?
Rick Bernier, I live over on Hoyt, way across the street.
Yes, can you come forward?
Yeah, sorry, I can't see it. It's like the old Boston Garden.
My name's Rick Bernier. I live over on Hoyt Way. Chuck actually developed our development very recently. And my question is really around the residential piece of it. You know, I would prefer personally that they be owner occupied versus apartments. I just think there's more of a vested interest of someone buying it versus someone just going in there and living there. That's just my 2 cents.
And that may be a valid comment, but probably more for the planning board who would dictate what the occupants of the property is. But thank you for that comment. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, this is Peter Thomas, 215 Pond Street. Question for you guys. Have you factored the MBTA communities law into this? Is that part of your design for kind of high density housing? And are you aware of Hopkinton's requirement as an MBTA community?
We are aware of it, and again, we're a little bit early in our actual development and engineering of this project, so we need to have more specific numbers relative to what we finally are going to put before the planning board, but we're aware of it, and we want you to know that we'll be very careful about that.
Yes.
My name's Kathleen Reel. I live at 6 Nebraska Street, but I own 8 Cedar Street.
Okay. So I guess you could be considered a butter.
Oh, better, yeah.
16 feet away from 6 Cedar Street. 8 Cedar Street, the property that I own, I've owned since 1993. When I bought the house, I converted it to an apartment upstairs and offices downstairs. I since have moved and I rented the apartment upstairs, and downstairs I do have my office as well as a couple of other offices I rent out to. And I feel very strongly about what I'm going to say today. 8 Cedar Street is about 16 feet off the edge of the stair, from the edge of my stairs to the building. For the past 10 years, I've been trying to get this building gone. So I really would like to see this building just completely demolished, because I do not think there's a way to save it.
Okay. That's not what I thought you were going to say, but okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. That's a twist. All right.
Sigh of relief.
See, I was about to take that.
There are animals living in there. There are skunks,
I
rats,
have rights too.
possibly.
We have rights.
That was poor intended a joke.
There really is animals living in there. It's a fire hazard. I have my property value, I think, has gone down because of it.
Sure it has.
I had my apartment for rent this summer. It sat. That's almost unheard of in Hopkinton. People walk in and they see this building next door that is horrible. I mean, I took some pictures of the things that I'm dealing with on a daily basis. This is trees that are constantly falling onto my property.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The fence is coming down. This is my building. So here's another building looking down from my tenant's apartment.
Yeah.
So it really does have to go. I mean, I'm all for old buildings. I owned a Victorian on Grove Street that I recently sold a couple of years ago. I love old properties, but this property is too far gone. At one time, it was a cute little building that's, a cute little house. It's not that way anymore. Nobody has lived there since, I think, ever since it got purchased. It's just been, I think, storage. Another time, there was a bunch of kids going in there and smoking cigarettes. I mean, my insurance company actually contacted me and said something has to be done over there. I was almost not going to be insured because of it. So I feel very strongly this building has to come down. I'll be keeping a very close eye on what goes up there. I just want to make sure with the planning board, I'll be very in tune on what's going on. But at this point, for this purpose tonight, I really think this building has to go.
Okay. There's someone,
Knocking at the door.
thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yes, sir.
I'm Brian Thompson. I live over on Hoyt Way as well. A new resident to Hopkinton. It's a beautiful town. The worst problem is this corner. I think it needs to be developed by a responsible developer. I sent a letter to Chuck like a month ago and said, what are we going to do? You can't just let this go for. And Parsons Group has got a history and a reputation developing first-class properties. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Yes, Chuck.
Chuck Joseph, 5 Benson Road. I just want to say I had the pleasure of working with John and Brendan on Davenport Village down the street and on Homes on Saddle Hill Road. And I'm not sure that the reputation of the developer plays into your decision, but I can say only the best things about what they would do here. They're very solid, upstanding, go by their word. I also want to mention that this type of development is in line with our top priorities in our master plan for creating density in downtown.
Thank you. Thank you. And yes, it is absolutely relevant to determine whether or not the existing structure is preferably preserved or whether there's a better alternative. So the reputation and integrity of the proposed, the applicant certainly is important in that consideration. So thanks for that. Any other comments from the public? Yes. Ed.
Ed Harrow, 8 Spring Lane. I am not here for this, but I've been running around town opining that what we need there is a first floor commercial and 2 stories above it residential. So take that as a plus.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chair, I know I've already spoken. Peter Thomas, 215 Pond. I just want to say, this is a statement that we as or I should say you as a board and every board in this town should be thinking hard about how to lessen the residential tax burden on all of us.
Especially with the new school coming.
With $160 million, $91 million to us and another $50 million going to the Hopkins School probably here at town meeting. We're already at about 82 to 86%, depending upon the year, how much we're funding. And any amount of retail helps that, any amount of commercial development. And a building like this will also become an anchor and invite other commercial interests into town, which I think this town desperately needs. I know everybody in this room feels that pinch. So whatever you can do to help smooth that, I think you should factor that in your deliberation. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments? This is, I think, very important information. So I thank you all for attending and for providing input. I will ask the commission members if they have any comments or questions for the applicant.
I have a question. I'm looking at your proposal. And we're talking about Cedar Street. How does this affect Cedar Street? Did Cedar Street come down and become parking, or is this part of the?
Where the,
Cedars, this.
that's where the house is.
Lot is sloped.
I know. Well,
So the lot slopes, there's an entrance to underground parking.
on this, where's the house?
It'd be at the tail end of that
That
last.
last gable peak.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Straight out of site plan. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's preliminary
Yeah.
and any other board members want to make a comment before we close the public hearing?
I do want to speak just about, I did pull up some information about 6 Cedar. And do you want to do this now or when we do the preferably preserved?
Only if it's something that
Well, I would just want
you
to,
want to.
I was there for the site visit, and I agree there are definitely animals in there. We saw their handiwork.
You get a picture where they kept peeking back in again.
Yeah, we saw their handiwork. Yes, and it's clearly just storage. It's full of stuff. Wrapping paper from, 1987 or something. So I also want to say it is an early of the cottages that's there. I did pull up the survey form that was done a while back on that neighborhood, and it did call out this house as one of the earlier ones, is 1840, and definitely that plays out with what I saw in there. It looks to me like it's timber framed and not dimensional lumber. So it does look very early to me. That being said, also the stairs in there, it was straight up. So I don't know how that would work if you were to try and make that into a
Preserve it.
yeah, I don't know how it literally was like climbing a ladder. They were really rather impressive because it was a tiny little house, and to get upstairs, that's how, I think the L is inconsequential. But yeah, it's got issues. The floors were definitely squishing as we walked in there and disturbing squirrels and critters. But it is so early, it's, moving in on 200 years. So it's something to think about because I do think it's timber framed because you were able to see the corner posts and everything.
Yeah.
It's right on the cusp of that machine age. And although it looks very colonial revival in appearance right now, it does retain the really early Greek revival cornice and the gable end returns. So that's just something we need to think about. I don't have an answer to it right now, but I wanted to double check my notes.
Excellent
I
observation.
wanted to double check my notes.
Just incorporate.
I haven't done the research myself, but yes, the research that was done puts it at about 1840. So it's actually a little earlier. So
I didn't attach any inside photos, but I did print some out just before I left my office, and you wanted to see the ladder that is the stair.
it really is a ladder.
Happy to submit that.
Yeah, I just pulled up my photos from the site
Ladder, but
visit
it is
too.
steep that,
Do you have a photo?
Do it justice
No.
without.
No, I get, and yeah, it's literally like climbing a
I
ladder.
grew up in an older home in town and with steep stairs, and they were nothing compared to the steepness of those. You wouldn't really want anyone climbing up and down them, but
And I took a bunch of photos in the site visit. I can put them into the record too. That's,
So I think what the commission, yes,
Tina Burlap, 7 Daniel.
yes, Tina.
Anyone from Parsons speak to the issue of traffic going in and out of the commercial and the residential areas where Cedar Street and Main Street?
I would just say we're going to be doing permanent traffic studies with the planning board, and that'll be more in the purview of the planning board. And we have not developed the
No.
program far enough at this point to address that.
But I do note that in their diagram, that the rendering that was provided, they've moved both access points as far away from the Main Street, Cedar Street intersection as physically possible. So they're at the two extreme ends, which I think, I have to say that I think the rendering shows excellent urban planning. I think it's ideal for the town of Hopkinton to increase the mass and move it to the streetscape. I think this is a fantastic development. I have reservations about the aesthetics, the vernacular that you're using, but that's not for today. I think the key issue for me is the intent, the massing, and the overall proposal. And that would weigh in heavily as to whether or not I considered that the existing structure would be preferably preserved over this concept. So that's just a comment I wanted to make before the public hearing was closed.
Let me ask our audience a question. Is there anyone in the room that wants to save number 6 Cedar? And if you do, why? Seeing the answer is no one wants to, we can continue.
All right, so I think at this point, if there are no further questions from the public, anyone else want to comment? I'm going to close the public hearing. Well,
I had my hand up, Mike.
Oh, sorry about that.
If you don't mind. I'll be brief. It's Scott Richardson. I'm a former long-term resident of Hopkinton, as some of you may know, and very active in the Chamber of Commerce. So this development is something that we have been waiting for a long time. We were very happy to hear that Dennis was leaving town. Well, maybe not leaving town. Selling the
Okay.
building. And
All right.
again, there's nothing significant.
Tell us how
about-
you really feel.
Well, anyway, I'm sure some of you share that. But again, we would really look forward to seeing this being developed on the site. I know the developer and the architectural firm that's working on this, and it's all first-rate team, and I can't wait for it to be done.
Well,
That's,
thank you.
again, the chamber is very supportive of, again, anything like this in the downtown so that we can really create a downtown.
That's good intel. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? One last time.
I know
Yes.
this is kind of probably a planning question, but do we have an idea of how many commercial spaces you plan on or intend to have in this building?
We're close to knowing that, but,
And how about square feet?
Roughly 6,000 square feet of retail space.
How about total? Like,
What's the total square footage, do you know?
Richard, do you know that number?
That's a good question. The architect.
If I look at my notes, I think it's in the 70,000 range.
Yeah.
One at
70,000.
68.
Yeah.
And again, we're early, so.
Yeah.
That could work out.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Please stay for the actual historical commission meeting, but I think at this point, I want to close the public hearing. Do I need to take a vote or?
Yeah, I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
We have to take a roll.
Oh, we're,
Because we're on,
okay.
Stacy Spies, aye.
I throw an eye.
Eric Sonnet, aye.
Brian Colella, aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous. So we're closing the public hearing. All right, so now I just want to go to the agenda for the Historical Commission meeting. And the first item on the agenda is to make a determination on 48 and 52 Main Street and 6 Cedar Street. And what I'd like the commission to consider, I would like to revisit the historical significance of each one of the properties. I believe we could take 48 and 52 Main Street as one property, since it's a contiguous structure, and then look at Cedar Street. So my opinion is 48 and 52 Main Street are not historically significant, but I'm open to hearing if any of the board members feel otherwise.
I agree with you.
I'm in agreement too.
All right, well, we should make a motion then.
Make a motion that 48 and 52 Main Street are not historically significant.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion? We have to speak.
Jason, yes, I feel good.
Brian,
Brian Colella, in favor, aye.
Eric Sonnet, yes.
Mike Rowan, yes.
Stacy Spies, yes.
All right, it so passes unanimous. 48 and 52 are not historically significant. 6 Cedar Street. I did write the letter saying that one of the properties being proposed is historically significant. That was specific. My opinion was it was 6 Cedar Street. I still believe that it is historically significant, subject to the second step, which would be preferably preserved. But I do want to go on record to see if the commission agrees that 6 Cedar Street is historically significant. So I'd like someone to make a,
I'll make a motion that 6 Cedar Street is historically significant. Do it need a second?
second that, okay, and Stacy, how do you vote?
I vote yes. Stacy Spies votes yes.
Mike
aye.
Rowan votes yes.
Yes, Eric Sonnet.
Brian Colella, yes.
Jason, yes.
Okay, so I think it's unanimous that it is historically significant. Now, the key purpose of today's meeting is to determine whether it's preferably preserved. You've presented considerable amount of information, which I know is preliminary. And the only thing that I want the commission to consider is, do we have enough confidence in the material submitted that that's what is going to be built to determine if this is superior to what is existing on 6 Cedar Street, and that this would be preferential, and therefore we would not deem that it's preferable to preserve the existing structure at 6 Cedar Street. So that's my debate.
I'll make a motion that it's preferable that the presentation made today for that property supersedes the historical significance.
So you're saying that,
No.
if I could rephrase that, so I would prefer to make a vote that based on the documentation submitted, it is not the existing structure at 6 Cedar Street is not preferably preserved. Is that
So moved.
acceptable?
So moved.
So I just want to hear maybe get a second, and then I just want to hear comment before we vote. Or should I have
Why
a
don't you,
comment?
why don't you get a second on that?
Commentary.
Oh, then,
Second.
I second that.
Second. Okay, so the motion on the table is that 6 Cedar Street is not preferably preserved due to the potential redevelopment that's been submitted. Is that phrasing?
I think, yeah, I think. Want to make sure we're avoiding double negatives.
No, I know. That this is preferential. What is submitted is preferential over preserving the
That it's not,
existing
so you're,
structure.
yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think? I mean, are you ready to make a vote? I mean, the only hesitation I have is that we can vote and we can say this is preferable and let other town committees weigh in on the aesthetics and the design and the functionality. And we'll be done with this property. So that's, if you feel comfortable, you feel confident that the other committees can handle all of those issues, then we should.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay, well, actually, I'd like to have I'd like to have, because we know that with other properties we've dealt with, even if we do determine that something's preferably preserved, that doesn't mean it stays forever. It begins a conversation clock of 18 months.
Just so the public understands, if we determine tonight that as of tonight, that the 6 Cedar Street structure is currently preferably preserved, that we are instituting an up to 18-month demo delay. However, we've used that as a vehicle to allow the developers to come back to us with more solidified plans so that we have a higher level of confidence that what they're submitting is permittable and approvable by other commissions. So that's the debate that we're having internally here, is whether or not we're in a position to say, okay, this is it, this is what they're going to build, or whether we believe that, there may be some alternatives down the road.
Because, we've done other things for other neighborhoods. I know on Ash Street, for example, there was a demo delay on a Greek Revival property with one with the attached barn, and then over the process, and it didn't run out the full 18 months. We were able to work with them, and they came to us with a plan that would kind of keep things in scale with the neighborhood and reflect the neighborhood. So, for, a finding of preferably preserved doesn't mean that it's definitely going to stay, but it does it keeps a conversation going about what we should do. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that it's as pristine, because we know we certainly had other buildings where the L's came off, and this one's a concern for me, because also I don't know how you're going to bring that up to code, the stairs. So the floors could be fixed. We couldn't even get into the basement. So there's a lot of big question marks that we would need more information on.
Isn't it considered dangerous? I mean, there should.
I don't know. That's a separate.
Well, that's up for the building
Is there
inspector.
political significance to the original owners of the property at all?
That I don't know. Yeah, that we don't know. So I'm going just off of the architecture alone. But yeah, I mean, it's got other questions, and it may be that if we have more information about what the basement looks like, or whether there's any way to actually make those stairs work, that we can always change, we can change a decision down the
And to
line.
your point, there is an existing property, and I think it's 14 Cedar Street that's under a demo delay. Because the submitted proposal was not consistent with what we thought was the character of the neighborhood, we actually determined that it was not preferably preserved and instituted the demo delay, hoping the developer would resubmit plans. We have not seen any plans on that property since that point,
Is
but
that residential or commercial?
it was residential.
It's residential.
Yes.
They may be running out the clock on that.
Yeah, and look, the 18-month demo delay is a sunset determination. In 18 months, the applicant has a window of opportunity of where they can just go ahead and seek a demo permit. So our jurisdiction is temporary only. So
The nice part about dealing with it now is that we're here talking to you about
Totally.
ensuring that it has some historic connection
Yeah.
to the town, whereas 18 months and one day,
you do what you
we'll
want.
still do it, but we have the right to do
Right.
whatever we want.
So, and that, you know,
I think
and
that the best, I know the hearing's closed. I think I'm talking to the audience, not to you in case that's an issue, but I think the best thing to do is to make the finding that it's preferably preserved, potentially use some wording that speaks to the photo that you have in front of you. Understanding that there are going to be some changes to the project. We're gonna have a floor plan, we're gonna do whatever it is, but it's gonna be, in material respects, similar to that. And who's gonna be looking at it? The planning board is gonna be looking at it too. And, they'll be able to keep our feet to the fire here.
And
Well, I think you're in a bit of a between. First of all, the planning board is going to work on this. And they won't allow you to do this if you don't have a resolve for this.
that's, and,
so,
yeah,
Right.
so can we request more?
It's historically preserved.
Yeah.
The issue is, would we rather have this than this?
I think also too, and with the meeting being closed, I just want to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn, but if I may, I think, John and I would consider going through selective demo if there's
Yeah.
timbers or elements.
that we
I
could
think
use.
we
Yeah.
did take a look.
Like I said,
at
conversation.
within reason inside, things that were of significance, whether it was in a common area or in our amenity space or anywhere other.
Yeah.
We would take whatever, and I think that there's not a whole lot to that to take.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one other brave site visit there, but
Yeah, it's, the floors were squishy.
I'd say that we would obligate ourselves to that.
Yeah.
No, if you're the common room taking some, because I do think Stacy is correct that you'll find that there are some rough hewn timbers.
I think it's early. Yeah.
Purpose for easily.
Yes.
Right.
Especially like especially if you're doing like industrial.
There are ways to, we're starting a conversation.
That I think that'd add value to our project.
So,
I do.
So Brendan, thank you. I thank you for your consideration. I am going to ask the commission to consider phrasing this in a way that we can still say at this point in time, it's preferably preserved, but subject to confirmation by the planning board that we would rescind that based on the
procedurally, do we still, have we had a second that we were?
well, we have a second on it on motion. That's right. No, you're right. So we have to vote.
Wait a minute,
You're absolutely, see, thank you, guys.
let me amend my
Okay,
motion
all right,
to include what you just said as
Okay.
addition.
okay.
Now we can vote on that, so we'll have an amended
Well, let's see if Brian has this down. Brian, what do you, what's the amended motion?
He's hoping for a transcript.
Motion that the existing structure at 6 Cedar Street is preferably preserved with the caveat that if the planning board is in agreement with the submitted plans, that we would grant a demolition application.
Okay, we'll rescind we'll send the demo delay. Yeah. All right, that's a reasonable, and that's second or do
Nate seconded.
I'll second that.
okay, all right, so, In the vote?
Vote no.
Okay.
Okay, wait, so I need someone to phrase, let me know what I'm supposed to be
So
responding to
you
now.
are
Okay.
voting, an affirmative vote will state that the current structure at 6 Cedar Street at this point in time is preferably preserved, but that if we get confirmation from the planning board that the design and consistent with what was submitted today is in fact permittable,
That's what he said.
that we will rescind the demo delay and allow demolition of 6 Cedar Street based on the preference to have this structure rather than the existing structure in place.
What's the no vote? What will no vote mean?
A no vote means that you're willing to say that the 6 Cedar Street is not preferably preserved and they can demolish it tomorrow.
Wait a second. So I'm just, so the way the two are going is if it's a no, it can go, but
If it's a no, it can go.
the other way, but the other way is that there's no, even if it's preferably preserved, the planning board supersedes preferably preserved. If we're
Maybe,
phrasing
maybe
that-
that's too difficult to, is that? Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
I think what we're getting here is your desire to determine that this new development is preferable to what's there now.
Yeah, we just don't know if it's permittable.
You just don't want to find out that we put up
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
a self-storage facility or something like that. That's your.
All right, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Hey,
So we're saying,
No, so I think that I think
Okay.
the language should be no is we can demo it right away.
Right.
Yes is that you find that it's preferably preserved. Do you find that this is preferable, but you
I want to make sure it's
withholding
preferably.
judgment, yeah,
I want to make sure it's
final
actionable. Okay.
decision are preferably preserved until
thank you.
we
Neil.
get through the site plan review.
Okay,
I don't know if I did that much.
We voted that it was preferably preserved.
no, we voted as historically significance. Now we're gonna have to determine if at this point in time, it is preferably preserved. And
That's the motion.
let's just make the motion. At this point in time, we're saying that 6 Cedar Street is preferably preserved. We've made public comments about what our intent is going forward. I don't think it has to be part of the motion.
Yeah.
I do because the planning board won't address this until they have some designation of what happens on 6,
Oh, really?
because this includes 6.
Okay.
Oh, so you're saying they need that box ticked?
Is it,
Can't move forward.
would it be possible with a letter of support?
No, we can do this right now.
Okay.
The bottom line is, if we do the motion that's on the table, this is what they go to the planning board with, and we won't issue the demolition unless the planning board goes along.
Well, we have to act. We have a certain window of opportunity. We only have 30 days from when we determine something is historically significant. We have to make a determination. Either it goes on demo delay or it doesn't. So we can't wait until the planning board.
All right, then the bottom line is vote no on the motion, and that will mean that it is,
They can demolish it tomorrow.
they can demolish it tomorrow.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm gonna, I appreciate your advice. I think I'm gonna reserve judgment and, I'm gonna vote yes to the motion on the table, which is that right now 6 Cedar Street's preferably preserved.
All right, let's go.
We just ending the motion at that, preserved.
Yeah, why don't you,
What we normally do.
yeah, why don't you read what you have for the motion? So we've got it recorded.
The extended version of the motion? or the-
The dance mix.
Your motion now is amended and voted
Yeah.
amended. That first motion doesn't exist anymore.
So what is the amended motion?
This preferably preserved.
Yeah, I think it's,
It's the one you just read.
So if deemed preferably preserved, you cannot progress to the planning board even with a support letter.
No, of course you can.
Yeah.
Of course you can, because the demo delay can be rescinded at any point in time. And we've worked with the planning board and other boards. In fact, one of the things that I want you to consider is that and you've offered to maybe preserve some of the
Absolutely.
the materials in. There is a clause in the bylaws that if you were to make consideration for a property that is historically significant and work with the historical commission, the historical commission will work with the planning board and ZBA to seek relief of any setbacks, minimum area requirements for the intent of mutual preservation of historical significance. So there, the bylaw actually allows other town boards to make that consideration and provide you relief of setbacks, area allotments, to maintain or to provide some historical integrity within the proposed development. So
And so it starts the conversation about, okay, so it's preferably preserved, now what?
So Brian, the motion, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we are voting that 6 Cedar Street is preferably preserved at this point in time, subject to further deliberation once the planning board has approved the proposed plans, which we are amenable to rescinding the demo delay at that point. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Is that,
I'll second that.
okay. All right. So all in favor of the motion, we'll have to do it all.
Kaja is an I actually vote no.
Okay.
Ryan Colella, I vote yes.
Eric Sonnet, yes.
Mike Rowan, yes.
Stacy Spies, yes.
Okay, so it passes 4-1. So I will issue a letter to the building inspection department stating the motion, stating that it currently is under demo delay, but subject to further deliberation based on the documents presented at the meeting.
Mike, is it also possible, can we put in a request from a code official to see if there's the building inspector, if it would even meet code for residential or anything? I mean, that's the part I don't have expertise in,
Well,
so.
if you saw the email that Mike Damasio.
Oh, yeah,
submitted,
okay.
So any structure that is pre-existing can seek relief to code as long as it is structurally safe,
Yeah.
and any structure can be made structurally safe. So I don't think there's any issue
Okay.
that we need the building department to weigh in on. I've heard abutters state that the existing structure is not in good condition and is at best a place for housing animals and not
Yes.
people. I understand all that. I think this is a procedural issue.
Okay,
that hopefully, we will get to the point where the existing structure is demolished.
Yeah.
And something that has some historical significance or relevance.
Yeah, because I
is-
don't want to give the
is built.
impression that we're just chasing fantasies here. So, I'm not going to preserve it just as some sort of artifact. So I want to see, and we haven't seen the basement.
No, I
things
think
like
this
that,
is a
so it-
procedural issue,
Yeah.
such that subject to further deliberation.
We appreciate your consideration
Absolutely.
and
We're excited.
and ultimately.
Yeah, Brendan
Right.
John Neal, I think is a great start. I think your proposed the urban planning is awesome. I think this is
As the
excellent.
architect,
This is
it's terrific,
exactly
yeah.
what the town needs. Further refinement, I'm sure it'll really be an asset to your development and the town. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Someone's going to have to tell the skunks. Skunks, it's springtime, they can find a new place. It was all full of, they found walnuts. The
Yeah.
place is full of walnuts.
No, I need that. Sorry. It's my only copy.
Can I get the, oh, great, I got a.
Walnuts and wrapping paper.
So the next agenda item is 189 Pond Street.
My son-in-law.
Oh, my God, what a good guy. Are you in Chatham as well? or-
Oh, Mr. Pine.
I'm across from the ninth grade.
Oh, so I live on 215 Shore Road, yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, great street, great street.
So Jim, talking with you too.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not sure if I'll. Something going here tonight?
Absolutely.
Good evening. No, sit over here.
Yeah, please, no.
Why don't you sit
please.
right up front?
Sit right up front.
Chuck.
So, do you have someone online or?
Yes, Henry, the architect, is going to join us.
Okay, oh, Henry, okay, Henry Arnado.
So one from the right.
All right.
Me too.
All right. That's okay.
For this one too.
Okay.
Henry is a architect that works with the fellow that would build a house when we get to it.
Okay,
And I think he has sent a picture of a house as something to look at. That they have actually built this house, I think, in Holliston, and see whether that begins to get a favorable response. So,
sure.
and he can explain much better than I can.
Do you want to try to share the screen or
I'm gonna try, but
let me stop sharing my, hold on.
all right.
Say, bring those just in case the screen share doesn't go well.
I'm not so sure I can share.
All right, I can do the same routine. Let me just, for anyone online. So this is the, which frankly, I like a lot. I mean, this is consistent with the existing character of the house. And if you tell me you want to replicate the house and add on to it, yeah, I think I'm very amenable to that. That's,
Yeah, this was just an idea that, my wife and I met with him. I'm Marlon Fine, by the way, Jim's son. And, trying to convey what happened at the first meeting and where we wanted to go. And he said, well, I got this idea for you to look at a house that's real and some pictures and plans and stuff. He goes, we could start there. And just to see, if we're going down a path that'll work for everybody. So
I think that's the character that, what I like is that that design emulates to the roof pitches, the overhangs, the detail that is consistent with the date of the original house construction.
Yeah.
And, using new materials, I think as long as they replicate what the character was, I'm all for it. So
we're not looking for a big house. We have one that's, my wife and I had decided was too big before she got diagnosed with cancer in the fall. And then, we decided it was time to downsize and get onto one level, get to that point of life that we lived at, and still have some room for the grandkids to come over all the time that they want and at their home. So then we just want to take the next step and be right up next door at the top of the hill from these guys. So my folks.
So all I'd ask is that you have a set of elevations and plans drawn up specifically for 189 Pond Street. And if your drawings emulate that photo, you've got my vote. So it needs to be specific to that property.
Yeah. And we just hadn't gone any further than Henry come up with that and said, well, let's start with this.
But that's one vote, and I'll let others comment. Oh, you actually have elevations already. Okay, I didn't see that, Commission.
Oh.
Yeah, that's certainly consistent with what we've done with other houses. I keep saying the one on Ash, because that's the most recent, the house came down and so they've, it's, consistent with what it was before and the scale and the massing, but,
And just to be clear, we just started
that's
the
just one
process.
that's in existence. That's
it just started the process.
In other words,
Concept idea.
I've never worked with this.
We're coming from this.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've never worked with this commission. I worked with a lot of historical commissions over the years. And I just wanted to get a sense and a reaction from you folks in terms of, we haven't designed the house yet. This is a house that was done in Holliston. You know,
Okay.
but we haven't even gone over their program. We know they want a master bedroom on the first floor. We know the house isn't going to be very large, probably around 2,400 square feet. We know they have a desire to have a garage. These are modern day amenities that everybody wants. Yet I still think we can keep that farmhouse motif intact. And if, you know, if we're allowed to proceed, the beauty of this is I will be the liaison that connects what you folks want as a commission to what the Pines want to build. And we have that opportunity to do so. And I figured we'd throw this out first and say, this is what I thought. And if they liked it, then I said, we should forward this to the commission, which I think they did. And here we are tonight to discuss this in a little more detail. These are not the final drawings. These are someone else's drawings. This is a house on, you know, so I don't want to sound like we're going to come here and say, we're going to give you a plan and here we go. We have work to do, but we just wanted to take the temperature of the water, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and that's what we asked. And I'll let other commission members comment if they choose as to what their opinions are.
I agree with you again.
I think it's great. And
Yeah.
with the exception of the garage, which is fine, it looks almost exactly very similar to what's there now. I think it's
reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you're within,
What's there, so it's great.
Yeah.
as long as you're within the character of the area.
Yeah.
Build out as you want.
Yeah.
But you gotta come through this process, you know, to get the blessing and everything's fine.
You take a comment from the public.
Absolutely.
Peter Thomas, 215 Pond. I happen to be a neighbor of Mr. Pine and Mr. Pine. I don't intend to use my time to turn this into a dissertation, but I cannot overstate the contribution the Pine family has made to this town from a historical standpoint, going back to Mr. Pine's father, the first full-time fire chief in this town. He hired the first full-time fire chief. I'm sorry, Mr. Stewart. He was the volunteer fire chief. The Pine family has had such a storied contribution to this town. And they've given much to this town. These are the people that you could call in the middle of the night who will come and take care of a dead deer in the middle of the road because they happen to have a front end loader. That's the kind of family the Pines are and were. I think that you already all agree, it sounds like, that this is a good thing to do. But if you need one more reason to feel good about your job tonight, pillow, it's you know that you supported a family that has been in this town, supporting this town for, well, you know, since the 40s.
I believe I used to sit next to your brother at church.
Joe.
Yeah.
He never missed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I understand Pine family has a legacy within this town. That needs to be respected. Yes, Chuck.
Mike Chuck Joseph, 5 Benson Road. Jim mentioned he was coming today and wasn't used to being in front of the historical commission. We talked about coming just in support for him. I've known Jim for 40 years now, and I taught Marlon in the 8th grade. So there you go, right? But more importantly, Henry did the Hopkins Village Center across the street. He's a really good architect, and he will give you what you want to make sure that the character is maintained.
Thank you for that. Okay. Appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm in a good place. I don't want to waste any more of your time. I think you're in a good direction. Work with Henry and you know, email us plans and elevations specific to your property, and maybe we can get this resolved. Next meeting is we meet first Tuesday of every month, so maybe we can resolve it in April to your benefit.
That certainly is important to us, things that have been discussed a little bit.
All right.
Health reasons and I'm looking forward to having a younger generation next door because I'm too old to do most of the things that I've always done. So it'll be
I hear you.
yeah, it's true, believe me.
So you're not picking up the deer. I shouldn't call you.
I'd
Just,
send
you know,
somebody.
It's like, put that number in right now.
Deer would mysteriously vanish. There were a lot of farm animals that I got calls to scoop up and take care of. I'm glad somebody else does it now.
For the fun fact, Mr. Pine's mother was the first dispatcher in town.
Really?
They had two phones in the house. One was for their personal line and one was for the fire department. And when she got a call on that, she would just go tap her husband at the dinner table saying, get out there. Go back. So,
That's a good history. I never knew that.
Very cool.
Mr. Pine, am I right?
Yeah, there were actually 3 phones in the house. There was a black one, which was the family phone, and the Pine business phone.
Ah,
There were 2 red ones. One was Woodville and one was Hopkins. And there were 2 other houses in Hopkinton that had those phones. So that growing up, I can remember that if the Pines were not going to be home, they had to make sure that either the Chesmores or the Frees were home. Because no matter what the emergency was, that was the.
And we were an all volunteer fire department.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we were. My father actually convinced the town to hire the first 2. Which Arthur Stewart was one of them. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
my father died in our house fire. Arthur was the logical one to take over, and he was a great guy to take it to the next step up. And we've had a great list of fire chiefs over the year, most of which were Hopkins and bred. And of all the changes in my 82 years, I think the ambulance thing is the greatest improvement in town. I mean, my father had a station wagon with a siren on the something called an inhalator in the back. And it might have been my brother and I responding to something or about his medical. It's nothing, you know, but I got a couple ambulance rides in the last few years, and it's like an emergency room on wheels.
so get this. He and his brother Joe are in the back saving a life while dad's driving him to the hospital in the back of the family wagon. That's the contribution from this family to the town.
All right. Well, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you for that.
It's back.
Thank you for your time, and
Thank you so much.
thank you.
You can hang around for me.
Don't take it personally, Ed.
Thank you, Henry. All right.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you folks. Thank you.
Henry.
Thank you,
All right.
Henry.
I'm around. Okay. Henry, nice to meet you. I'm Alan's dad.
Good night, folks.
Good night. Okay, let me share the agenda again.
Stop talking. Yeah. Oh, but then I'm here. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
This is the most popular we've been in a while.
Well, say.
Okay, billboards. All right.
Boards.
Billboards. So I don't know if you had access to Facebook.
Many
I
people.
avoid Facebook like the plague.
Well,
I resigned from them.
I know.
Recently after they hacked my account and sent things to.
Money is.
All of a sudden, I went from about 30 friends to 330.
You're just very popular, Eric.
Yeah, well, but what they did is they sent things out like, you need to send your bank account number
Oh, dear.
for this or that, and, you know, I personally recommend it and that kind of crap. You know, be careful. They're a bad bunch of folks.
Let me just.
What did you find on Facebook?
Well, let me pull it up.
Put it out for public comment,
Oh, I missed that.
asking people their opinions.
I saw a little bit of that.
I'm trying to pull it up.
What's your handle?
Hopkinton Historical Commission. Oh, Anna's not here tonight. That's right.
Society.
I know, she did a good job. Let me-
See if I can find it.
I have it here. Let me stop sharing. And then let me share on Facebook.
Oh, here's
Commission.
Not.
Commission. Yeah, not society.
All right.
You're on the public library. No, you know.
Where is it?
There we go. It's from February 14th.
There it is. Okay. All right. Here we go.
I love there were some capital letters and some exclamation points.
Okay. So, I'll let you read this.
Can't read it. Read it.
Okay, let me zoom.
That's
So, I can't, it just defaults to the photo tab. Anyways, we asked that, public comment on, whether or not people would consider the billboards historically significant, and does anyone have any evidence that they existed before 1950? Unfortunately, we got quite a few responses, but no one could determine that it was,
That they were even that old.
yeah, a few more comments. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right, so suffice it to say, this is public documentation. No one thought it was historically significant. Of all of the individuals that commented, and my dilemma is I have no evidence that it's more than 75 years old. So I have a hard time saying it's historically significant. So
Even Craig's pictures from 1930.
I don't know that was, I couldn't tell.
38. They're pretty clearly there.
Yeah, if you can share that.
I had sent it to you, didn't I?
No, but you tried to share it with
The
me.
email.
Did I?
Yeah. How do I,
Hold on, if you say I have it in my email, I'll find it. Let me,
Now, I wish to read something because
Yes, Sid.
nobody knows this.
you go right
Town
on.
of Holliston, our neighbor.
I'm listening.
In Holliston, the revenue from cell towers on top of water towers is dedicated to open space. That would be consistent with the revenue earned from the rental of this billboard space by Clear Channel coming to Hopkinton Open Space. There's a precedent for this. Except that, as my wife said, there's no pictures on the antenna on the water towers in Holliston.
Okay.
Are the water towers town owned?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so these aren't publicly owned. I
Not
don't believe.
publicly owned, but they would be on town property and the lease would be being paid to the town.
not town property. So is this the piece of land that the developers are going to be giving to the open space
Yes.
committee?
Ah, okay.
So it's gonna be.
Publicly owned.
Soon as it passes at town meeting.
Okay.
February 3rd?
February 3rd, thank you.
All of a sudden, it's like, okay, that's an interesting point.
Being greedy.
Okay. All right, let me, let me stop sharing that. Give me 1 second. they sent images. But you know what it looks like. Well,
No, whether it's to document whether or not they were standing and more than 75 years ago.
yeah.
Definitely not.
So I don't think I
You have
could-
something there you can show us?
I know, because I don't think I could view, this is. What,
It's not downloaded. Yeah, that means it's like a broken.
yeah, I don't think I could see whatever you posted, all I got was great.
I didn't print it. I don't know why.
So, I mean, I'm not denying that you sent.
So
attachments.
it's at
Not showing up.
Hayden Row and the two billboards in the field.
How do I know it's 1938?
Oh, I know. Yeah, okay.
It's on the historic area.
Historic areas, I use that for work all the time. Yeah.
Like,
Maybe look at that.
Okay,
It should be right. Let's see the other. Is that them right there? Looks like them.
well, let's,
The question is whether or not it's these actual ones or, but it shows that there was.
okay,
looks
so
like
there were structures.
structures there, whether or not it's these structures is the question.
I guess I'm of the opinion that irrespective of whether they are actually 75 years old, I don't believe they're historically significant. So
Is there
that's,
a cutoff for date as to historic?
well,
These are specific.
yes, thank you for that question. Yes, the town of Hopkinton has empowered the Historical Commission to institute a demo delay for any property structures, any structure within town that is more than 75 years old, that the commission, Historical Commission, deems to be historically significant. We have the ability to determine that it's preferably preserved and institute a not to exceed 18-month demo delay. So we can determine A, it's historically significant, and B, you can't tear it down for 18 months. That's the limit of our powers. But it's only on properties that are more than 75 years old. So it's clear based on the information you've provided that the structure that is billboards, there was a structure that was there 75 years ago. Who knows whether it's the exact same structure that's there today, but there was a structure that was there. So that would make it eligible for the Historical Commission to determine it was historically significant. I don't know what the other commission members feel on this, but I just don't think it's a couple steel I-beams and cross brace, and it's.
and huge bucks for open space.
Well, wait a minute.
Thank you, because Marilyn Messedas told me to ask this.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Why does open space want to keep it?
Well, because they have a certain historic charm and they have a certain income value.
If you're getting a property, what the heck do we have? Who's gonna tear it down?
So I can answer that. When we got the original special permit approved for, oh, what do we call this neighborhood? I call it Emerald Drive because that's the name of the road, Conley Farm. Back in 2021, Planning Board Condition 18, which somehow we've sort of overlooked along the way, but John Gelsick found it. Because it was like the concept plan, they made conditions, and then we had like 3 other plans came after this. But he's holding us to this, and it's that the existing billboards on site shall be removed prior to the issuance of the first building permit, unless found to be a historic resource by the Historic Commission and Board of Appeals if necessary.
So you have a condition from the planning board and it has to go.
It has to go unless they're deemed historic resource. And I don't know, to me, they're a landmark in Hopkinton. I use them as, I've said this at the last meeting too, but anytime I give someone directions through town, the billboards, they come up.
Do you have any idea why they would care?
Why planning board would care?
Yeah.
Probably because that land goes to open space and presumably, maybe they thought open space wouldn't want them, but
We have a planning board member.
There was a great deal of discussion at the planning board meetings over several months in regarding the billboards. And the planning board itself, it was divided whether to keep them or save them. At the end of the discussion, it became a realization that we really had no control over it because at the time, the developer owned the property and we couldn't dictate to them to tear it down or not. And it then continued further. The discussion was further, we do not have the knowledge to decide if it was over 75 years old or whatever. And that lied within the jurisdiction of the historical commission. So we kind of just said,
Yeah, no, well, I think,
yeah.
I think we're passing the buck. I think, yes,
done.
yes, it is 75 years old. Yes.
I respect that.
I respect that. It is 75 years old and it's this commission, I will ask for a vote to determine if it's historically significant. And I'll leave it up to the commission members.
There was one member who, if I could just do a little ad libbing, it wasn't me, but she actually went into Boston to do some research on billboards in Massachusetts. And I guess there aren't too many like this around anymore. They're different. They're all neon flashing lights,
Yeah.
lit up in shiny lights and things like that. And she found a couple of cases where some of them have some signage and billboards are listed as significant, like the
Citco sign.
yeah, the Citco sign, the Boston Garden, and that's where she felt that it was may fall in. But it was beyond the planning board's purview. We felt that it needed further discussion. And it went to open space and it appears as though open space will inherit this piece of property at the end of the day. At the town meeting. And so open space decided that, correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but they voted to.
We voted.
We voted because of the revenue may be of interest and also it was kind of unique to Hopkinton. In this area, there aren't really many billboards around like that anymore. So that was.
No, Lady Bird Johnson took care of
Yeah,
most.
Lady Bird worked hard on that.
Yes.
Let me make a motion.
Oh, hey, hold on. I just want to get one more comment. Yeah.
I really feel I need to say this, and I like to think of myself as being open-minded and Democrat. I will sign nomination papers for a communist. It's democracy. That's what it is. I am terrified that if we have no control over what goes on these boards, I'm going to see things that can be anti-Black, anti-Semitic, anti-this, anti-Muslim. I'll see pictures of babies being aborted in utero. I'm terrified. I'm just.
The only other, no one's had control over it for the past 75 years. You haven't, the townspeople
That's
haven't had
interesting.
control.
No, that may be the truth, and that's an interesting comment, and I appreciate that. But it still doesn't change what my concern is, and you may say, well, we won't, no, you won't, there won't be any control over it. Anyway, but that's fine.
So it would still, what you're saying is the lease would still remain, the town would own it, but the lease would still be with Clear Channel. So
At least we would.
that would be the same. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood the arrangement.
Town could write the contract because this is a contract basis and the contract could specify what may not be up on boards.
Just to add to that, the lease has been up actually since 2018. There's just been a tenant at will. So if the lease is terminated for whatever reason, and I think they have 120 days to remove the structure. So the structures are theirs. It's not the town's responsibility to upkeep them. They're just there. So I guess my sense is, well, obviously, since they're a tenant at will, it would be to open space to go and renegotiate a lease. They could probably put some restrictions since it's their land. I'm sure that there could be some restrictions on what was advertised. So, and just for the monetary thing, we're looking at, it was $4,000. And since they've been a tenant at will, I believe they've just been paying that since 2018. I would assume you would be able to get some more. But they didn't specify CPI or anything, so I'm not sure, but I would assume you'd be able to bump that up with a new lease. Then I just caution you guys, like, once these are gone, they're never coming back. And it just seems a shame to me. Like, I don't know what's on there for advertisements right now. I hardly pay attention to it and I drive by it every day.
One of them is empty because it's come off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Sometimes.
Bad timing, yeah.
Yeah, someone actually posted on Facebook, they were concerned they use it for the graduating class of
Yeah,
hockey.
that's Steve Burns.
Like, as there was one
Yeah,
comment.
there was a couple, I saw two, I think. The person who actually paid the bill for that, I think, commented down
It is used,
further.
it has been used for some community goodwill.
Somebody
I don't think of,
on Hayden Row, I was speaking to last night, said that he liked the idea of things like congratulations, things that were that pertain to the town that were relevant and to the benefit of the town generally, if we think of that sort of social behavior as beneficial. That's an interesting comment that you make, because there was some conversation at planning board level to inquire into something like the Hopkinton Arts Council, HCA, whatever it is called, to see if somehow the town could work with them to promote some of their activities. And so, but that never went anywhere because we needed to go through this process.
Yeah.
So there is some potential for some community advertisement, if you will, but we haven't gone that far, have we yet?
Especially if you're renewing the lease, you could probably get some free advertising as part of the
I
compensation.
think what you're talking about is the relevance of having information on Route 85, to have that informational content available. I don't know how germane that is to the historical significance of the structure. So I think that's what we're here to decide. Is the structure historically significant? There's no question in my mind it provides a community asset. I'm not going to argue that point. I don't want to see it gone, but I just don't think it's historically significant.
Chairman, I make a motion that the billboards are not historically significant.
Do I have a second?
You can second that?
Okay. So let's make a vote. Stacy, how do you vote?
So the motion is that they're not significant.
Yep.
Stacy Spies, no.
Mike Rowan, yes.
Eric Sonnet, yes.
Brian Colella. Yes.
Jason, yes.
I have a question. How often do applicants come to you and ask for their property to be deemed historic? Is that seems like usually it's the other, they come to you because they want it not to be, right?
Well, there are some people.
We do a lot of work determining what is historic in town.
Yeah.
No, there'd be some benefits to it, right? If you can, then you don't need to deal with some of the modern ZBA.
Yeah, you can get there's some code flexibility for older properties.
I was going to say 120 Hayden Row Street came to us and used the fact that we determined their property was historically significant to build two houses behind their property. So there is a precedent for determining a structure is historically significant to the benefit of the landowner. So.
And we have a member on the Community Preservation Committee to get funding for historic projects and restorations and things to save. And, you're at a meeting that is the hardest part, and that's demolition. And that's because with town bylaw, we're basically historically based in how to preserve and keep the good stuff. like billboards.
Now I'm thinking now I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole because I was thinking
Our
there's
case is made for signage and maybe keeping signages that are, like, I think of the Coella sign, you know, it was neon, and at a certain point, a lot of towns change and they don't allow things like that, and you want to grandfather something in, and that, there's certainly cases that can be made for it.
Signage is a slippery slope.
yeah,
Planning board tell a developer he can't put a planning board up or a billboard up when we have, as a town, and are receiving revenue from it. You know, I mean,
Or couldn't the open space go and put billboards up after they get taken down? It's town property, go to the town manager and say you want to put them up.
well,
Planning board, I don't know, did you have to put it in as an?
Well, if once the lease is done, they're gonna get ripped down, so they're gone. No, we have no more billboards. I think that was a mistake, but thanks for your time.
Good evening.
Greg. Thank you.
You're welcome. We tried.
Stacy.
Thank you.
yeah, it's, there's a rabbit hole to go down because
And-
I'm thinking of all the roadside stuff, but I don't know how. I'm thinking, I'm a historic preservation consultant professionally, and I've just been racking my brain for some sort of context to plug them into, and I haven't been able to find one. But that's why I voted. That's the way I voted. I voted no, because I'm thinking there's a context out there, but
They're iconic, but not historically significant. Iconic is different than, they're notable, they're a community asset, but they're not relevant to the historical commission. So thank you.
so it'll be interesting to see what my inbox looks like. I voted preferably
So,
reserved.
all right, so there's another structure that I've been asked to vote on. It's a dry well that's on Saddle Hill Road that was hit by a teenager about 3 years ago.
Fixed.
Is that the one by Greyhound Friends?
Yes,
That's been hit every
Here every single year.
year it gets hit.
yeah. And the DPW would like to take it down.
No.
And I asked them to let us weigh in on whether we think it's historically significant or not.
I lobby it's historically significant.
Is that on our agenda for tonight too?
It is on the
Okay.
agenda, so it's, you guys. I think I have fun.
It's like, all right.
Sorry. Email photo.
I do, that thing gets pegged every year. It gets taken out, I swear.
It's not that bad. It's just that it hasn't been repaired.
Maybe that's what it is. It's just been hit and not repaired.
And Saddle Hill, is that considered
That's a scenic road, I believe.
A scenic road. It is it's a substantial structure.
Yeah.
But it is total disrepair.
Yeah.
It's just.
Because I think it went in when the stone house next to it went in. I think it's all part of
It's
that.
part of their
That's part
property.
of that parcel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was,
W has to do is ask for a demolition permit and wait
Well,
18 months and then take it on.
Well, they're just being respectful of they asked us to weigh in on whether or not we thought it was important. So.
I don't even know what you're talking about. You have a member of the CPC here, they can write a check to cover the.
We have to inform.
Billboards, pay for it too.
Well, we would if we thought it was significant.
well, yeah, because I know it's part of, and I don't know if it's still with it, but the well had a head to it, had the gable roof, and that's probably just lying on the ground now too.
It is what you say. We built it with, CPC did the thing on West Main Street where they kept the animals. What the hell?
Oh, the pound.
The pound.
This is
CPC thing.
It is, one question I have, if it's already in pieces, which it sounds like it is, and it's a dry well, right? That's what they're saying? It's just decorative.
I called it dry well, but I assume it was an active well at some point.
Yeah. Is it possible, since it's already lying there, is it possible?
Plan. I believe it is now part of the right of way.
Yeah, it's right on the street.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's part of the right.
is it possible to pick it up and move it back a few feet if it's already? Well, I guess the question is is it an actual hole in the ground or is it just a decorative?
I believe there's still a hole down there. So I was there when the last teenager hit it. To look at it for our previous DPW director. And at the time, I went back and forth to him about whether or not that person's insurance was going to pay for the restoration. And I think it just fell by the wayside.
It's a tough corner. I've been heading north. I've been behind a school bus on an icy day and watched a school bus slide back toward me. So I get why. I can see coming downhill how that gets hit.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's a hazard where it is. So I think it's historically significant. I would say that in a minute, but I don't think it's preferably preserved. So I wouldn't object to.
Is there a way to just move it out of the right of way or that?
Why don't we ask?
I'm thinking if it's already in pieces, if there's no, that they'd have to fill in the hole. It would be.
We don't have a demo application. We don't need to take a vote.
Okay.
DPW just wanted our response. I can ask them if they could just move it. Can they move it? Is there a place to move it?
Yeah. I mean, is it possible that?
We could use the granite for Aikens Park.
I mean, is it possible maybe even, because it's a hazard where it is. It's going to keep getting hit.
By the way, this is an aside. Keith Tech has agreed to make the railings for Aikens Park.
Yeah, we saw that.
So, I mean, is it possible it could even, since it's on that same corner and it was constructed as part of that property with that stone house, is it maybe would they be interested in having that on their property? I mean, that might get more complicated than it needs to be. So, but if I don't know what the right of way on the sides of Saddle Hill is there. It's probably not too much because it's a scenic road. If it's possible to get it out of, I'm okay with that. Because it was meant to be roadside. The road just has kind of come out to meet it.
I would tell the DPW that if you want to save it, you need a champion. For example, Jane Moran, who was just here representing the planning board, took upon herself to be the champion of the pound.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right. That's how it happened.
That's interesting you say that.
I've lived here for 35 years and that pound was overgrown and.
No, it had that wooden cow there for a while.
Yeah, I understand, but.
Yeah. I missed the cow.
I know the guy who was.
True. I didn't notice it until he put the cow there. I was like, what is that?
Arthur Broken took care of that for decades.
Okay.
And he was in an accident and fell off. Then it became overgrown inside and what have you. Then Jane jumped on it. Arthur got better. They came to CPC. We paid for it. They hired the people they hired on the original stones and did about $40,000 worth of work free, putting that thing together. So if you have a champion that feels strong about something,
No, they did a nice job.
it'll happen. If you don't, tear it down, let's get on with life.
Thank you. That was fascinating. It was very interesting. Thank you. I wondered what had happened with it or watching changes in it. Thank you.
So I'd be curious, my questions would be, what's the right of way? Can we just reassemble, it's already in pieces. Can they just pick it up and move it?
So
Or is it?
why don't I query the DPW director, see if she's willing to move it? And if
Thank
so,
you.
then we can find
And
out.
I'm glad to see there's another active user of historicareals.com. I'm on there all the time.
I lose hours looking.
Yeah, you could just, that rabbit hole. Absolutely. Thank you.
Where is it?
Historicareals.com, and you type in an address and it pulls up quad maps and aerial photos.
Yeah, it is.
It is fascinating.
There's
It is a rabbit hole.
cool stuff out there besides Facebook.
That's how I often figure out if I'm trying to nail down a construction date.
Alternative.
What if I'm trying to nail down a construction date? So can they move it? I mean, it sounds like, is there a whole well there? Because they're going to, that's going to be a
I'll
thing.
ask her if she can do it because it is a hazard where it is. So
It makes me think of there's a very different sort of resource, but we used to live in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and there was this gorgeous Cass Gilbert stone fountain, beautiful at what was once a bucolic intersection. And that sucker would get hit every winter. So they built a steel cage that goes in October. Because it's a Cass Gilbert, right? So he's the one who did all sorts of 19 teens, Woolworth building in New York, just a very important architect. But they literally bring it, and they bring in a crane, and there's a steel cage of it on and then they wait till May and they take the cage off. It's because it got hit so many times. We're not doing that on Saddle Hill. So, but
Well, the scout, Anarchy,
oh yeah,
are you good with his sign size?
I haven't seen. I missed the last meeting, so I haven't.
Oh, it was an email.
Oh, okay. I'll check the emails.
All right.
Is the font was like a little hard to read with the background. I don't know if that was.
I will. I'm going to put it on my
I'll
calendar.
defer to Stacy.
All right, I'll put it on my calendar to reach out to him.
I'm good with whatever she thinks. She
Pass the buck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I had nothing on content. It was more
Just readability.
fonts. Yeah, I don't know if you want to. Colors.
There's a lot of meat in there, but.
Yeah, maybe it's too much.
Yeah, that was when I was working with Harrison on the cellar holes. That was the hard part. He
wanted to just.
I took a red pen to it. I said, you got to make it so a fourth grader can read it. That's what Park Service does.
One of those QR codes on so you can do more.
Yeah.
The signs for the springs have been redone. The springs.
Oh, yeah.
On Whitehall.
Yeah.
They've been redone. They're fabulous.
Oh, cool. I have to go take a hike.
Look at them.
What they were before, they were something covered with plexiglass. The
Yeah.
plexiglass was deteriorating. So they're like the signs, more like the signs of the Dickman Cellar Hole.
Oh,
Cool.
okay.
Okay.
Really nice looking.
Nice. I'll have to go take a look.
I'm not sure. Somebody that wasn't so heartless about all billboards.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna. I gotta piss someone off.
Or his.
I have to piss someone off every day.
We're laying the groundwork for the historical commission of 2074, or no, even further, to figure out whether or not those signs are historic. So we're laying the groundwork for them.
I know you had ulterior motives, and I just couldn't.
You know how I survive all of this is I find it all entertaining and humorous.
Good.
And as someone said, as long as you find what you're doing entertaining and humorous, you can just keep on doing it.
All right. Well, I would say rewarding it'd be in there too.
I'm gonna get out with a spray can of paint. I'm gonna start painting on Hayden Row Street.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Or Burma Shave signs, Burma Shave?
Yes,
There.
old enough to know Burma Shave.
Well, I come from Situate, and you're not allowed to put up in certain areas actually, it's pretty much anywhere in town, anything that's neon. I mean, everything has to be, it's carved wood, and
It's like driving through,
Be self-illuminated.
yeah, Dover and Sherborne are like that. Like the CVS is the quaintest little CVS sign you ever
Really?
saw. You wouldn't know it was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Just want to think, I had a blast. I had a wonderful evening.
thank you for
I'm on the Woodville Historic District Commission. My name is Berlin. I represent the Historical Society.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for.
Maybe I'll come back again if you'll have me.
Not to mix messages, but we're trying to get certified local government. We need everyone on the Woodville Historical Commission to have a resume submitted.
And I'm one of the ones who hasn't done it, and you think that I could do it. I
It only has to be a couple.
No, I'm a speech language pathologist, and I taught writing and whatever, and I worked at Kiefer. I know, I think what it is, and I won't take up much more of your time. I think the problem is, believe me, as you can tell, I can, if I know anything at all about a topic, I can find something to say about it. You can't talk about something you don't know anything about. And maybe that kind of. Yeah.
It's never stopped me.
That's a separate category.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's because, and I've tried to work with Elaine a little bit, I don't know what I bring to it other than I want to I want to do something to support the town. I believe in pride of place. And so that's it, but I don't really have any particular expertise. And
You're also, but
otherwise
you're
I'd
also
have written
thorough.
a
You know,
resume like this.
You're thorough. You're asking lots of questions. That's important.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
There you
I just gave you, I gave you your blurb.
Yeah.
Good night,
And you
everybody.
actively participate.
All
So,
right.
Oh, I do.
There you go.
Are we done?
I'm done.
Oh, my goodness.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll say it.
Oh, geez, I sent you, no, we can't adjourn.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
I'll say,
Oh,
okay.
Stacy seconds.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Oh, Stacy Spies, aye.
Says aye.
All right. I'm gonna end the meeting.
Yep.
All right, we gotta
We have to
vote.
make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn at whatever time it is. Okay,
8:49 PM.
all right, Stacy Spies, aye to adjourn.
Mike Rowan, aye, to adjourn.
Aye.
Jason,
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.